Remote work is everyone's dream. Goodbye living in mom's basement. Hello working in mom's basement. But seriously, it's not as simple as more money, more freedom. The job market is shaky and there are factors you must consider to ensure that you don't get trapped, but it is possible. I'm an example of this. I live by the beach here in Puerto Rico, working remotely with more job satisfaction and money than I've ever had before.
Let's talk about how much my business makes while I sit on the beach.
So it can be done. And let's see what's really going on in the job market and then cover 4 remote jobs that pay well even in a recession. The first one is completely underrated, teaching and tutoring. This is great because it can be a side hustle or a main business, whichever you prefer. And here's the secret. If you work for a school, you need a bachelor's degree, but the world has realized that schools are only one of many places for education. There are countless platforms dedicated to mentoring people. So step 1, ask yourself, what skills or knowledge do I personally have? Is it a language, coding, investing, music, fitness? What is it? Now, maybe you have some knowledge already, but you don't quite feel comfortable teaching it just yet. I have a secret just for you. Learn and document the process. So let's say you want to teach graphic design. Learn a new skill each and every day and then make a short tutorial or TikTok about that skill. This does 3 major things. You get better at the skill, you get better at teaching, and you build an audience of potential students all at once. Worst case scenario, you just get better at something. People think of this as kind of a secondary market, but it does over $8 billion a year, so do not downplay this niche. When I was working on this video, I kept wondering, what is the actual meaning of work? Have you thought about that? It's getting harder and harder to answer. Maybe it's the true purpose of your life, like a vocation or some passion. Or maybe work is just what you do to make the money to do what you actually want to do, like play Stardew Valley for 12 hours straight. This question sent me down a rabbit hole and made me realize the whole thing is a circle. Since the beginning of history, there's been a relationship between work and organization. A much more famous Max called this the division of labor. Think way back, like the Stone Age. We had hunters and gatherers, division of labor, or in other words, you are what you do. Now during prehistory, they didn't exactly have professions. By the time you gathered enough food to hold you over until tomorrow, you didn't have a whole lot left over to trade with someone else. Then everything changed, and I promise you, I'm getting somewhere here. But all of a sudden, people weren't starving anymore. Agriculture began and people settled, grew things, and built towns. That's when specialized professions were born. So let's say you were the very best at making spears. Finally, you could make spears and trade that skill to buy the food that you need, honing in even further on your specialized craft. Multiply this concept over time, shave people a little bit, and you get a fully functional pre-industrial world. And here's when something turned the world upside down. Industrialization. It completely changed the game. Before the 1700s, around 80% of people lived in the countryside. They had nature and community, but it turns out life as a farmer is a little bit harder than Stardew Valley makes it out to be. So the Industrial Revolution swept through the countryside and people flocked to cities for wealth and opportunity. However, it wasn't all good. City life meant long hours, tiny apartments, and maybe feeling detached from the world around you. And for a few hundred years, that was about as good as it gets, until now. And that's the real potential of remote work, bringing work full circle. It's the idea of getting the city salary, but while living in nature, or at least in the context of freedom and space. And it's only becoming easier. This is why I wanted to make this video. It's finally possible to live how you want to live. Will the transition be easy? Probably not, but it will be worth it. That being said, the #1 remote work sector right now is cybersecurity. We all know that IT is booming, and it's true that coding is one of the best remote jobs out there. But cybersecurity doesn't get enough credit. Since the start of the pandemic, cyber attacks increased by 600%. We're talking ransomware, data theft, and political warfare. This system needs to keep running, and you can be paid handsomely to protect it. With a job in cybersecurity, you can work from anywhere, whether you're a freelancer or part of a company. Also, it's going to grow because data shows that the more remote work we do, the more cyber threats we get. That's security jobs, job security. Of course, it is demanding, and you will need training up front, but it pays an average starting salary of $70K a year. That's $35 an hour. Now, Here's another factor you must consider when it comes to employment: the Great Resignation. In just 2021, over 47 million people quit their jobs in the US. It's the highest wave in 20 years. There are entire sectors that simply cannot find employees right now. Now, a lot of people think that the pandemic caused this sort of spiritual job awakening, but that's actually wrong. The Great Resignation has been going on for over a decade behind the scenes. Lockdowns fueled this, of course. It's the W-2 that broke the camel's back. However, if you check the numbers, since 2009, the share of workers who quit their job has increased every single year. It's not a reaction, it's a trend.
2021 has been the year of the Great Resignation.
Great Resignation.
The Great Resignation.
The Great
Resignation.
But the real question is, why is this happening? And how can you personally benefit? We'll talk about that in a moment, because first, Web3. And I know, the crypto bro talking about Web3, but hear me out. This entire space is expanding and big money is backing it. This single VC firm just raised $4.5 billion for Web3 startups. There's a massive need for illustrators, designers, developers, but also writers to create sales descriptions, tell a story, or build white papers. They need regular folk to build the entire space and help bridge the gap to the mainstream. And yes, the sector will go through highs and lows. It's a brand new space. That's just what happens. However, blockchain tech and the general idea of digital property will be a huge part of the future. Jobs here can be full-time with huge ranges of salaries, or freelance like Upwork or Fiverr, where you can earn up to $5,000 a month. Now, are all of these jobs really recession-proof?
People who want to work but can't find jobs are part of today's other bad economic news.
Usually what makes a job strong against economic crisis is one thing: its need in society. So the backbone of our economy, like food, medicine, law, basic utilities, IT, for all of these jobs, the demand is called inelastic. That means that people will always want them, even if it hits the fan and prices go up. But the problem is most of these jobs are not done remotely, at least not yet. That said, the 4 remote sectors we're chatting about today belong to markets that have increased year over year. They've become part of our needs as a society, or in the case of Web3, they're becoming more and more important. So the bottom line is, they're solid. And let's finish with the most important space of them all: e-commerce. Just listen to Bezos laugh and you'll understand the power here. According to Morgan Stanley, the e-commerce sector could be worth more than $5 trillion by 2026. And there's a long ways to go. Right now, only about 22% of all sales are made online. In terms of jobs, this means things like customer service representatives, helping customers solve problems, which could be built up to a managerial role in the future.
And that's why you have an assistant regional manager.
Yes, it is.
Then there's digital marketing, building out ads, social media, videos, copywriting, and of course, sales. Right now, there are 36,000 remote sales jobs on Indeed that pay over $70K a year. Some even pay more than $100 an hour. If you can sell, you will always have the ability to make good money. That is just a fact of life. Now back to the original question. Why is everyone quitting in the first place? The Great Resignation has been brewing for over a decade and no one really realized it. According to a Harvard study, there are critical factors that we have to consider here. One of them is called reshuffling. A lot of workers quit in an attempt to move up the social ladder. Most of them work in hospitality or leisure services. But it's interesting to see that people in higher wage positions are also quitting. They dive into new sectors just to see if they can swim and move up this ladder even further. Another key element here is psychological. We all grew up with the mantra, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And it's true. Kinda. At least we all strive for it. However, even if you do achieve it, there are still other things in life. Levels of burnout and exhaustion are through the roof in the past years, and a lot of workers decided to go solo, either freelance or start their own thing as a result. That's why companies like Amazon and Citibank now offer 12-week sabbaticals so their employees can go swim naked in Brazil and clear their minds for a while. And this is a net win for everyone. Except maybe the Brazilians. So what's the future of the job market? Some companies seem to love remote working. Others hate it. I think a mass relocation of workers to some island or mountaintop is unlikely for now, but the pandemic proved that you don't always need to be where your job is, and making that switch could mean you're a whole lot happier.